Good morning, Luther Jackson.
This is Jada.
And Zoe.
Today is Tuesday, January 8th, and the final school day of the semester.
That's right, everyone. You made it halfway through the year. There will be no school for students, sorry teachers, tomorrow.
Then quarter 3 will start, and many of us will get new semester electives.
Now, here are the announcements.
Attention all current 7th and 8th graders. If you're interested in becoming or learning more about the AVID program for next year, February 6th in the NPR Falls Church, AVID students and teachers will be hosting an information session for you to ask questions and learn more about what AVID is all about. Complete the Google form on LJ's Schoology page to receive your pass.
What is AVID? AVID is a college preparatory class whose main goal is to prepare students for a four-year college or university.
AVID helps with organization, SAT prep, other classes, college research, scholarships, common application, and your resume.
AVID students are focused, hardworking, driven, and goal-motivated.
The cast and crew have begun rehearsals for Mean Girls. Students, be sure to check Schoology for all updates.
Now stay tuned for a video from our media communications class about Artemis versus Apollo.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
We are going to compare and contrast Apollo and Artemis programs. To effectively compare and contrast both launches, we must identify 5 key topics: the program's name and purpose for the foundation, how many launches the program supplied, and its purpose, the total overall cost of both Apollo and Artemis, compare each individual launches of the programs, and finally provide some specifications of the rockets.
But first, we must build your knowledge of simple rockets.
A modern rocket booster or propulsion system carries fuel that is burned inside a chamber. The fuel burns when it is mixed with oxygen gas and ignited or set on fire. As fuel burns, it gives off hot gas that shoots out from an opening at the back of the chamber. Newton's third law states that for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. In a similar fashion, the action is the hot gas is being expelled from the nozzle, and the exhaust responds by pushing the rocket up. As rockets are very large, for example, Saturn V being around 37 stories tall, much fuel is required for a successful lift.
The Apollo program was created in 1961 to establish the technology needed to meet other national interests in space by NASA, National Aeronautics and Space Administration, achieve dominance in space for the United States, carry out a program of scientific exploration of the moon, and develop human capability to work in the lunar environment. The Artemis program was created by NASA, funded by the U.S. in 2017 to explore the moon to make scientific discoveries, technological advancements, and prepare for human missions to Mars, as well as testing NASA's new Space Launch System, or SLS, in the Orion spacecraft.
The Saturn V rocket operated in stages in order to launch. The first stage lifted the rocket to an altitude of about 68 kilometers. The second stage carried it from there almost into orbit. The third stage placed the Apollo spacecraft into Earth's orbit and pushed it towards the moon. The first 2 stages fell into the ocean after separation. 53 years later, the first SLS variant is implemented, named Block 1, which is used in Artemis 2 and 3. It can send more than 27 metric tons, or 59,500 pounds, to the moon, and powered by twin 5-segment solid rocket boosters, in addition to the 4 RS-25 liquid propellant engines.
Placed on the SLS, the Orion spacecraft named after the Greek god of hunting. The spacecraft, according to NASA, on Artemis missions, Orion will carry the crew to space, provide emergency abort capability, sustain the crew during space travel, and provide safe re-entry from deep space return velocities. Apollo 11 was the first and primary mission of the Apollo program. Fueled by the US-Soviet Union competition, it helped the United States become the first country to reach the moon in 1969. Then Apollo 12 to 17, not attracting much attention, launched from 1969 to 1972. Most Apollo missions had little complications that mostly didn't affect the plan, but Apollo 13 failing due to an explosion/rupture in the oxygen tank, causing the aircraft to lose oxygen rapidly, with the famous quote, "Houston, we have a problem," alerting control of their situation. Luckily, the astronauts were able to perform a slingshot maneuver around the moon, utilizing its gravity to generate speed, firing them back to Earth without any casualties.
The U.S. federal government invested $25.8 billion into the Apollo program. That turns out to be almost $1,534 per person in the U.S. at this time, or around $318 billion total in today's money. The Artemis program has cost the U.S. around $93 billion since 2017, including the future 2025 launch, with more launches to come.
Artemis 1 was an unmanned spacecraft launched on November 16, 2022, with the goal of testing NASA's capabilities to orbit the moon and return to Earth.
Artemis 2 will be the first manned spacecraft to visit the moon in 53 years. These astronauts will have a 10-day mission on the moon. The flight will also test the Space Launch System and the Orion spacecraft for the very first time. Artemis 2 is scheduled to launch April 2026, and Artemis 3 is set to launch in the middle of 2027, further investigating the moon's southern pole. And the final goal of the last Artemis launch in 2028, Artemis 4, is to take astronauts to the first lunar space station, Gateway. This space station will allow NASA to have a sustained presence on the moon, aiding them to make more scientific breakthroughs. I'm Vibo.
And I'm Caleb.
And thank you for learning with us today.
To go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
Wow, that video was full of awesome information and cool pics.
This is our final broadcast for this media communication class due to the changing of semesters. On behalf of all of us in Period 1 Media Communications, it has been an honor and a pleasure to bring you our school news.
We hope you all have a successful rest of the school year. Stay tuned for the new media class soon.